Alrighty, what is up, adventurers, and welcome to another video. Today, we're going to be talking about, I think, the thing that keeps me in this job the most, which is talking about healers and their struggles. I think, one, because it's relatable, but two, because I think they have to go through the most. I mean, part of it's justified, part of it, you could say it's a case-by-case basis, but of course, if you're watching this video, you're enjoying it, give it a like, subscribe to the page. We're nearing 1,000 subscribers and we're getting close to it, but let's jump into the video real quick. Let's talk a little about it. So this kind of started with a post that was put on a little bit ago, but it says it's no surprise, but there's a shortage of tanks and healers. So I've been leveling my first prot warrior today. No real tanking experience. However, the community is absolutely toxic. There's zero accommodation for a newbie tank. It's instant flame on. No pulling for more than one group at once. You're the DPS pull an entire room and the group dies. It's your fault. As the tank, you don't know every dungeon the back of your hand. You're not a good tank. Honestly, I'm surprised anyone volunteers to be the tanks or healers because of this constant flame fest. If all DPS complains when you started a tank and receive the same abuse, they'd be whining. Honestly, I kind of adhere to like the first person's comment, which is instant queues. Just you go again. You go again until you just get the non-toxic group. Also, I think a lot of people, so I think the one thing we're ignoring that a lot of people when they post this kind of stuff is that, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, which is when you're a tank or healer, honestly, I don't want to say you're in control of everything you do and it's all on you, because it's not entirely on you to do everything. You shouldn't be carrying the weight of the group as well as fulfilling your role. But honestly, when you're a tank or healer, the cost benefit analysis is you get faster queues, and because you get faster queues, you make the listing. Make the listing if it's bothering you, if you can't find groups, because groups are built and destroyed based off of a tank. If you're hoping for every group to be as a tank, healers there's 3 DPS, I'm filling it. It's not that it will take forever. It's just that you're kind of limiting your options on your own. Like there's no necessary reason to do that. So, honestly, you just have to let them freak out and understand that you get to try again as soon as they leave. Yeah, honestly, and I think that happens a few times too, where it's like, sometimes with those situations, you gotta understand that it's only like half an hour of your life. Less so if it's a bad group or if it's a bad DPS. Bad DPS don't realize all the mistakes they make. Every tank and healer mistake is immediately obvious to everybody. Many DPS mistakes look like a tank or healer mistakes. I would say to a tank, DPS mistakes are usually evident because the healer will heal you less. Additionally, when the DPS dies and nobody else dies, you have one person to blame, and that's either the DPS or the healer. It's never going to be on the tank unless it's like some crazy like threat thing. But rarely is it ever like threat thing or positioning thing. But usually those are rare in my experience. But the term tank actually refers to your ability to tank insults from your party. Withstanding damage from the dungeon mobs is an afterthought. You need to master that. But this was a little while back, so let's talk about something a little bit more current, which is from an exhausted healer. Use your defensives. I'm trying to push into 12s and 13s through pugging, and I don't know how DPS players get to this level and still don't press their defensives. Why am I getting I'm getting insulted by a mage when they die and have all 4 defenses available? Press rallying cry for once in your life, warriors, druids. I don't know. It's tough out here, fam. I'm just saying, I don't know why someone dying to heat blast on twin bosses is my fault when they're at like 90% health, and I can say I can take this without any mitigation. Frankly, I could say the same for tanks going into pulls without mitigation and then yelling at me when when either they get one shot and yell at me for not healing, or I do heal and rip aggro from them and get one shot. I don't think I've ever had aggro pulls, unless people are like dead set focusing mobs, but rarely do I ever get aggro pulls. But DPS, literally all you do is interrupt and manage the set rotation. I know when you are and aren't using your defenses because I track them, and a starting number of you aren't using your own toolkit to survive. I'll say just the one thing in defensive DPS, a lot of people like to blame DPS for everything in Mythics, but in defensive DPS, especially for melee DPS, but it applies to both. It is very easy to tunnel vision when you're a DPS, especially when your rotation is like you're trying to do super well. Say you get people who die. So it's very easy to tunnel vision. And also when it comes to being a melee DPS, it's that much harder to escape your like mechanics and also still do good DPS, because it's like those things are often antithetical to one another, to the point where if you're avoiding mechanics well, you're probably not doing the greatest DPS. And so like often those things are kind of conflicting with one another. I don't want to say it's outright just like, why aren't you doing more DPS? Like, you know, because it's not that way. That's often not the case. When Lady says AoE, I use defensives. Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing about this this game is like, I think the game right now, it's very important to put in your kicks, but also put in your kicks very wisely, because often instead of interrupting something and then they don't cast it for a little while, like you've effectively stopped casting to mitigate damage for the group, you've maybe just interrupted one spell and they just cast it again the moment you interrupt it. So I think that the big issue with the game right now is the fact that getting a kick, a successful kick in the game, doesn't always mean that you're getting rid of casting for a second. Sometimes they just immediately start, they start up that web bolt again, and it's like it never even happened. So it can be very difficult to prioritize. The thing I struggle with the most, for example, is reflect. Like I never know when the proper time to reflect is, and I'm trying to get my plates so I can know, but I'm still not smart enough. So that's my big issue with that personally. Honk is my favorite defensive. That's a good one. You know what can never die? The elements. What were pretty much revealed to be in the Legion. Basically the personification of Master of all elements. Like Azerothi and Avatar, Shaman are like cockroaches. We never died, just once. That's pretty great. Yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, for anybody, this applies to anybody, especially tanks, but DPS as well. I think people think of defensives in the wrong way. People think that if I don't hit my defensive when the damage is at its highest, then I shouldn't use it at all. I should only use it when I'm about to die. Defensives are to be used and should be used when you're taking a considerate amount of damage and you would like to, or you're expecting to take a considerate amount of damage. And during that time, it'd be wiser for you to do that so you can continue on. So I think if people start using their defensives more proactively instead of reactively, like reacting to like the last 10% of your health, then you would be better off. But it's just like saving potions in a video game. If you're not going to use those potions by the end of the game and you have 1,000 potions, then why'd you even have them? So just do it. Worst case scenario, it didn't remove as much damage as you thought it would, but what it will do is it will prevent the healer from needing to heal you as much. So I mean, like that, those are the main things with being a DPS. I'm not going to put it all on DPS. I used to main a DPS. I've mained a DPS for a majority of the expansions, but I'm not going to say that it's all on the DPS. That's usually who gets playing first, and we gotta respect that a little bit. Defensive CDs and DPS CDs, because you're defensive CDs are DPS CDs because your DPS is an infinitely higher. Your DPS infinitely higher whilst alive. Oh yeah, because yeah, I guess alive versus dead. Okay, got you. I can't. My action bar has too many malefic ruptures. This is a great thread. I love this thread. Today I had a demon hunter tank jump out of my range in the middle of 2 packs and died instantly. He had his 2 buddies start flaming me because I didn't. Why is everyone using this flaming term? I feel like I'm seeing this everywhere. I just blocked him and moved on, but it was a crazy group. Yeah, I mean, I think this. I mean, before I used to say this would only apply to like prot paladins, for example, but I think it is important, especially if you're wrapping up a previous mob as a warrior, for example, kind of hold on to some of that rage. That way, going into a fight, especially with a big pull, you can kind of pre-game some of those defensives. Pre-gaming defensives is not a great thing. I don't like that you have to do that, but I think especially with higher keys and with bigger pulls, it is very important that you do that. And I think a lot of people kind of skip on that and they blame the wrong people for it. Now, has there been situations when there's been really bad healers and I do the same key with a different healer and it's totally fine? Yes, but I would say gear yourself, treat pugs and healers that you don't know, treat it as if they're the worst healer, and then they'll treat you like you're the best tank. Like, take care of them, they'll take care of you. So if you're a DPS and you're in a group you don't know, at the start of that mythic, start conservative with your DPS, but stay alive. And as things go on, you can definitely be a little bit less heavy on the defensives. But I think it's important to establish a baseline first, especially with people you don't know. Establish that baseline and what that healer can expect from you, no matter what your role is. And then that would save a lot of people a lot of trouble. And here's the most recent post. It says, I play healer so I can play the game. I can only play for a few hours a day, so I play healer for quick grouping. I don't have to wait so long for the queue to pop up and stare at LFG. You guys saw it at the Warcraft Direct. They put it out. Warcraft Rumble is to be played while you're queuing up, because now you can play it additionally while you're in game. Y'all, I can't joke about this. It's real. But I think the reason why I kind of like constantly go back to this is because I think that for tanks and healers, it's always been easiest to group. But unfortunately for DPS, I think a lot of people like to pretend that optimal classing doesn't matter, optimal gearing doesn't matter. You can kind of do what you choose, whatever spec and whatever class you choose, and it's not going to be a problem. You're going to find people to play with. I'll always find people to play with. That's just not the case. That's not how it works. And I'd hate to break it to people, but people are kind of living in the delusion if they think that you're going to get queues that way. So my honest recommendation for people who are DPS is, 1, the first thing someone can see whenever you're joining a group is they can see what clears you have available. I hate to break it to most DPS. You can't skip levels. You will have to do your clears probably one at a time, because if you're doing an 8, you cannot have hadn't done a 6 or a 7, like going from a 5 to an 8. You don't have the previous proof to establish it. You just don't. And that's kind of like the unfortunate side effects of being a DPS in these situations. Now, there are more optimal classing. If you're an optimal DPS class, you can probably still guarantee that you'll get an invite. But when you're not an optimal class, you will probably have to prove it some other way. So that's my recommendation is kind of, if you're going to do these groups and you're not getting queues, start lower. Start lower and start making your own groups, because it's gonna be a long day if you don't. It's gonna be a real long day if you don't. But I mean, is it the solution that's gonna fix everything? No, I mean, I think there's certain classes, even if you're doing your best you can, you're simply not gonna be the pick that people are gonna pick out. That's why I say, it's gonna be important for you to kind of establish those things early on. But here's the thing. More than playing Warcraft Rumble, all right? More than playing Warcraft Rumble, why don't you guys play Peggle? Peggle's so much better. It's so much better of a game. All right, you play Peggle while you're waiting in queues. All right, and it's way better. So download Peggle and who needs Warcraft Rumble? You know, this is just optimal gaming at this point. So yeah, that's my recommendation with that. I know that's kind of silly, but honestly, I would never main a pure DPS unless I had a solid guild or friend group that I regularly play with. Actually, I have hated hybrid classes since the beginning of WoW, so that doesn't work for me. I started healing at the start of Dragonflight. I was in my late 40s and noticed the reaction time slowed down. I'm not able to keep up with DPS numbers. Fell in love with the playstyle. Yeah, I mean, playing support games, I think is all around in gaming the thing you do whenever you're kind of not as competitive, because it's just by default not the thing that people that really look at. I'm afraid to get hate, so I don't even try to play Mythic. Yeah, and this is like where all conversations about Mythic inevitably go, is that that Delves is the way to go. So I mean, yeah, more than anything, you know, I mean, healers, tanks, you define the groups. And the one thing is try to define them the way you want them. Don't try to go off of anybody else's version of things. Go off of a version of things that, you know, that you like. And I think you'll be successful. I think there's a lot less stress that way. But that's all I got for this one, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As per usual, like and subscribe to the video if you liked it. And of course, follow us on our Twitch page, twitch.tv/ShawnSetGo, where we'll be streaming live. I don't know if we're going to be doing classic content. I don't know if we're going to be doing Warcraft content. Haven't totally decided yet on what we're going to do, like playing the battle chest. But we definitely plan on doing higher raid content. I'm going to start doing that at least like once, twice a week. Instead of just doing like my vaults and like filling those out. I'm probably going to start doing a little bit more because I'm kind of reaching that ceiling. So we'll be doing that a little bit soon. So join us. You can play with us. I have no problem inviting new or experienced players who just want to socialize. So that's always there. But until next time, catch you in the next one. Peace.